You've been wondering about weapons in Apex Legends. What's the best? What's the worst? And what should I be playing? Am I wasting my time? Well, this is the last weapons guide you're going to need in Apex Legends Season 6. Maybe ever. To be honest, you might just be able to never look at another weapons guide again. That's how good this is going to be. But to be all honest, guys, we're going to not only talk about the weapon changes and what hierarchy and tier list they've become from literally the 24th best all the way down to the first and why, but we're also going to talk about some of the changes that were made, and throughout this video educate you on some of the things that attachments, things like bolts, stocks, stabilizers actually do, because there is a bit of misinformation there. So without further ado, let's get into the video. But I first wanted to say thanks for stopping by the channel. All my raindrops, say what's up in the comment section below. And everybody who's new, hello. I hope you enjoyed this video and content like this. And please feel free to leave a like or subscribe if you do. Let's move into the 24th best weapon in Apex Legends, the P2020. Now, the reason this weapon is always number 24 is because the service of weapons having an upgradable nature in Apex Legends is better than making every weapon good. For instance, knowing that I can get a great weapon after finding one that's not too good creates that level of needing to loot and to experience the development of your character getting stronger, which is important to a BR. So you'll always have weapons on the bottom end. But the P2020 noticeably actually got a lot better throughout this season. It still ranks 24, unfortunately, but those 15s used to be 13s, and that also increases the headshot ability here up to 23. So you're going to have a lot more success on the early game of this, a little speed movement there, and the P2020 will be more lethal. It doesn't bump it up past 24, even if you find that extended mag, which has also been helpful to making this a little bit more relevant if you do get stuck with it early game. Add the hammer points to that, and now with the early game kind of extended mag nature really helping out, going from a few extra bullets, you're going to find this weapon to be still at the bottom, but a little bit more capable than it used to be. Moving on to the number 23 weapon, the Mozambique, and this is where we get into some interesting aspects to what is going on with Apex Legends. The Mozambique was buffed. It's one of the weapons that we didn't expect to be buffed, but as you can see, that fourth shot there actually adds a ton of value to really the worst shotgun in the game. But the beauty of it is that when you add a shotgun bolt to it and you're in a tricky situation potentially with hammer points, you now have a super lethal way to finish somebody off. Even just having that extra shot with hammer points to finish someone, to whiff a little bit, to move, to hit a little to the side, then still have the ability to maybe try to finish them off, that fourth shot means everything. And the shotgun bolt is really helpful. If you can find this kitted out, you're going to increase your fire rate on the Mozambique by about 25%, and that means a lot when you're looking at really making this weapon hit hard. As you can see, that's pretty lethal right there, especially if you're landing all of your shots. So the Mozambique still ranking at number 23, but it's got something go for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not what you would pick if you had options. But if you don't have options, you'd be kind of grateful that you had it. So coming in at number 23, the buff for Season 6 for this weapon made it a lot more enjoyable, and I think that in general has been a good thing that they've done with these weapons here. Moving on to 22, you guessed it, it's the RE45. And this weapon has had a very kind of low tier status for its entire duration. What they did that I really liked about the RE45 recently is that they actually increased its mag size, they increased its fire rate, and they allowed it to be a lot more competitive than it ever was before. You just have more damage in the magazine, and that really, to me, makes this weapon much more utility focused than it used to be. It really was just kind of like, oh man, I got just like a missing machine. Like, basically, you would just shoot a little bit and be like, okay, I'm out. I can't hit a shot. I think this weapon actually does well in early game close encounters. You land at a place, it's still high value, a lot of high friction, teams are fighting. You grab an RE45. The only problem early game is that it kind of does suck down ammo. So if you end up finding yourself in a spot that just has maybe 2 or 3 players or maybe an extended engagement, it's going to be hard to get the value out of this versus something like a Mozambique, where realistically you could probably win an early game fight with about 16 rounds, you know, a couple of stacks of ammo. That's really going to be all that you need for that RE45, a little bit of a guzzler, and unfortunately it's going to stay at that number 22 spot. But moving on to number 21, we're actually going to go into the Spitfire. Now, a lot of people already are going to get mad, and we're going to talk about not only the weapons here, but we're going to get into a different conversation about the big boys, the ones who are in the top of the conversation at the high end of Apex weapons, because that has actually changed quite a bit. But still in this middle area, we find the Spitfire being one of the most consistent weapons in Season 6. Now, if you didn't know, the Spitfire actually got a recoil adjustment. And as you can see here, I'm not moving my mouse. That is a really slow, really easily controlled recoil. And this weapon has always had that going for it. Just really consistent, really high damage output, even from range. You can miss a lot and still be effective. Remember, with a extended mag, this weapon scales up better than any other weapon in the game. So it's very beginner friendly. It's very kind of like jack of all trades, master of none. And it's got look at this damage. 36 on a headshot. It's essentially as high as you're going to get if you're staying within SMGs, LMGs, or anywhere that's not a sniper. But it's just got so much wiggle room for you to mess up and still play. The hip fire is also really nice as well. You can do a lot of like kind of crouch moving and jumping while you're using it. And look at that. Still get the kill even though you have 12 bullets left and you've missed all that much. So the Spitfire, a good weapon, still got to rank it at 21. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. I know I have some Spitfire fans in the chat for sure. Moving on, it is the longbow coming in at number 20. The reason I rank this so low is because I just think there are other snipers who have a lot more value right now in the meta due to some of the buffs that I will talk to you about that have made a big change in the competitive scene and really seen people leave the longbow yet again. We saw a little bit of a reintroduction lately to the skull piercers coming back onto not only the Wingman, but the longbow. And I think this weapon has always had a special place in my heart. It was my favorite sniper for a long time. And I think for a lot of people just like the fire rate. It's a very quick fire rate. You can snap and really have some strong engagements from range. The only issue with this in this meta is that there's a lot of burst, there's a lot of huge chunking, and unless you're hitting headshots, most of the time you're just hitting 55, and that just truly isn't enough damage unless you've got a perfect line of sight onto an opponent. It's not a bad weapon by any means, but as far as the snipers go, you probably want to stay away from this one for now because there are other choices that will benefit you more. But hey, if you love it, you love it. Let's move on to its competitor right next to it, which is the Sentinel, which got a buff recently, and I think this is a good buff. And for me, the Sentinel has always been a little bit more fun. I think it's been a little bit more valuable, again, not only because you're hitting for 70, which is 15 more for even a body shot, but you're also, from a headshot, hitting harder than the longbow can, even with a skull piercer, and that's very minimal. One of the other things you're looking at here is look at the attachments. 3 attachments to get this done. If I want a longbow, look at the attachments I have to fully kit that out. I need a barrel stabilizer and a skull piercer to max out the value. The Sentinel comes with a little bit more of a higher hitting prowess, and it also is just more cost efficient, which is one of the reasons the Sentinel is, I think, in a great spot. It used to take a shield battery to charge, and the charging would actually break shields no matter what. So you see somebody there, I'm hitting 70, but if this guy is full while I'm charged, I'm still finding a way to hit 100 because any shot while you are charged will take off the entirety of shield. So it's tremendously valuable, especially if someone has an Evo shield. You can hit them in the body and do 125 damage, even though you should normally be doing 70. And that is one of the coolest things about it. Instead of taking 2 shield cells to charge, you now only need 1 shield cell, and you can get that effect. I think this makes an incredibly efficient sniper, but for some reason, and you'll see in a second, it just still isn't the top tier sniper right now from what I've seen a lot of pros use in the high level of gameplay and competitive playoffs that we've actually just witnessed. Moving on to the next weapon, and we'll get into why that is. It's the Alternator. The Alternator, oh man, I mean, really like the stepchild of the light ammo weapons. But I think it's just found a lot of like consistent value throughout. It's kind of like the Hyundai. It's not the Hyundai Sonata. It's like the Honda Civic. I think this is something you're never gonna get mad at. No one's ever gonna be like, oh, you drive a Honda Civic or a Honda Accord. It's a good car. A Toyota Camry. Hey, good car. Good gas mileage. Looks nice inside. Drives well. There's nothing wrong with that. I just get bounced up by a invisible jump pad. Excuse me. Is there somebody else here? What the hell just happened? Okay. Anyways, the Alternator really is one of those weapons that shines in its ability to adapt. It's got pretty decent damage if you just click through. With an extended mag, you can get all the way up to 27 bullets, which is one of the highest extended mags for any light ammo weapon. You also have the unfortunate aspect of not having a 2x headshot bonus, which kind of puts it below some of these other weapons like the R-301 in the light ammo category, but it's just a very good weapon, and you really can't go wrong with it. I think if you are running out of choices and you want something a little lighter, and you can't find, you know, that R-301, you can't find a Prowler, the Alternator is not a bad spot. Honestly, it's great from poke as well. It doesn't use ammo too viciously. You can get nice little ranged poke. and you just find yourself really, I think, having a lot of options with this weapon. So I definitely put it at number 18. I still got a lot to go. I want to know right now, what's the surprise? Had any surprises? Anything you're going to be surprised about now? We'll see. Let's head into the energy ammo, and I'm trying to keep the pace up for you guys as well. The L-Star, this is a great way and a great thing to talk about. Two things. One of the things I like about the L-Star, 2 attachments. So simple. Don't need much to get this done. And the other thing is that the attachment that's most important is the stock. Now, what does the stock do? In Apex Legends, the stock is going to improve your handling and reducing your aim drifting. Actually, when you get an epic stock, it will make your handling and aim drift 35% better. So you'll raise and lower your weapon 35% faster with a stock. Now, I just want to give you an example. You see that right there, and you see how fast that's going up? Now let's take the stock off, and you can hopefully see the difference. When I go there, and then I want to get my... It's just a little slower. And when you see that, you're going to realize that, man, there's some reasons why I'm losing duels just because the guy switched weapons a little faster than me. See how fast that comes out? See how fast you get that out now that you have the 3 stock? So this is what a stock will do. Another thing that the stocks have been proven to do is that you can zoom in and ADS faster with a higher level stock. And so the L-Star benefits from really just one good item, and then you're ready to go. And so that's kind of why I like it. It's got really strong headshot damage, 36. It basically bursts out more damage per second than most weapons in the game, and they have helped to adjust the horizontal recoil, the kick, and it's actually now I believe going to be a little easier before it burns out, which is what the L-Star does. Essentially, you can see it on my weapons kind of HUD right there, staring at the forefront of my weapon. You can see it start to go blue, 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 red, 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 and now I know that I'm going to overheat. And so that's kind of the cool mechanic of this. I think it's an underrated weapon, but I still can't put it above number 17. But you guys let me know what you think about that, and also let me know what you think or if you learn anything about those stocks. All right, now let's move on here to the Flatline. The Flatline is a weapon that in Season 6 has really gotten no touches. There's been nothing added to the Flatline, nothing taken away, and thus it doesn't really shine. People aren't using a lot of Flatlines in this meta, whereas I think in Season 4 to Season 5, there was a lot more Flatline usage. Obviously, you had the Anvil receiver still being involved, and I think you just had people more familiar with the weapon. Right now, the Flatline thrives in 2 different areas. One, huge damage per bullet, 19 in the body, and then, of course, 38 to the head. That's just such value. But the ability also to hit fire and I think get up close, making good value out of like basically getting in somebody's face and really being able to win that by trading with maybe one big headshot. That's all that you need from a Flatline to be really, really aggressive. And so it's one of those weapons that I think for other reasons due to the Prowler and some of the other changes that have happened, just not had as much shine in Season 6. But it is a fantastic weapon to pick up if you are interested in it. Again, make sure to check out. It's a great AR. And again, minimal attachments make this thing a very efficient option for a lot of players. Moving on to number 15, we've got the Charge Rifle. Now, I mentioned the longbow. I mentioned the Sentinel. And one of the big keys was it's very easy to fully equip. Now, look at the Charge Rifle. Not 5, not 3, really just 2. 1 freaking attachment and a scope, and you're ready to go. And the damage is, as you can see, if you hit all of your charge rifle shots, more than either of those weapons, and especially if you're able to find headshots on it. The big version of why the charge rifle is great and why it's come through has to do with my experience getting to Diamond last season, playing in ranked. One of the things you'll notice is that when people are camping and you have Evo shields, which are now part of the meta, you need to do damage consistently to level up your shield. And one of the best and most efficient ways to do damage is not to trace and see if I can hit a far shot. It's just to leave my mouse over them. And the charge rifle from any range can be effective in building up damage quickly and efficiently. And Evo shields have made this that much more of a priority. This is a horrible close range weapon. You never want to be using a charge rifle like this. You got to be lucky or just be a baller to go in charge rifle first. I mean, you got to, have some cojones, man. So if you do, feel free. But if you really want to utilize this weapon, it's about range. It's about poke. It's about efficiency of ammo. It's about not really being a hard weapon to equip and essentially doing the job of building up your Evo shields better than almost anything else, which is why, except for the buff to the other sniper we'll talk about later, is the best sniper in the game right now. Let's move on to something that I really enjoy and I think is just such a good weapon, the G7 Scout. Now, the G7 Scout one of the benefits of this weapon is the efficiency of the bullets. You can see it starts off a little bit bare, but even in an early game engagement, hitting for 34, hitting for 60, you hit a couple of shots like this, you are going to win your fight, especially when people don't have shields built up yet. It's so easy to do a ton of damage, even without the mag. And once this thing starts to get leveled up, you do have this kind of quandary of, do I want to level up, put that barrel, put that heavy extended mag onto my G7, or do I want to put it onto an R-301? Do I want to put that barrel onto something else that I'm going to be using? But if you can see here with the double tap, obviously doing that burst damage from afar or from close, it's extremely hard for people to combat when a G7 scout is firing onto them, especially if you're one of those teammates who likes to hang back. Maybe your style isn't get up close, but you want to do damage and you want to have an option. This is what I like the scout for. If you don't trust yourself with a sniper and you know you get into quick engagements, it really has a nice hip fire. You can have a lot of decent fights just with a G7 like this. I've gotten a lot of kills that way, and even with the single tap, right, you can make it happen. Even though it's not as easy, you can make it happen. And so the G7 scout for me has not only the range, it's got the pressure, it's got the bullet efficiency, and I think it's got the only issue is that it's got that level of like, do I want to outfit this instead of looking at another weapon? And so that's where we get into one of the more efficient snipers and one of the, in my opinion, best snipers in the game right now, the triple take. Now, the triple take got a buff in Season 6, and the buff does something like this. Makes this thing, which is normally something that you wouldn't have, now an option, which is the precision choke. The choke is no longer you might have remembered it as an attachment to condense these bullets and make them one, to make it a more effective and really like finite shot. And now you have the option to toggle it on or off. And so if I don't want to do that, I can hit my 3. I can hit my 3 shots. And I can go up to somebody and use this as a little bit of a shotgun, have a little bit more of a wider range, hit hard. But then I can also go ahead and say, okay, I want that finite kind of shot from range, level it up, boom, get that big headshot. Now, I think one of the biggest things about the triple take is that it's got an extended mag. Oh, wow, look at this. Did we just get kicked from the firing range? Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, F's in the chat, boys. I don't know what just happened, but maybe it had to do with that octane. Maybe Crypto kicked me out. He's like, you know what? Listen, you're exposing my secrets, old man. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to hear all that. Anyways, the triple take, back to where that was a funny little aside. Did I get a bug or something? Somebody's got to let me know in the comment section below what the heck that was. But the triple take really, I think, is just so valuable. It went from 5 at a base level of a magazine size up to 6, and it scales even higher to ultimately 9 with the full extended mag. And you've just got a ton of, I think, really efficient use of ammo. You can see how much damage it does for, you know, really not a lot of ammo usage. Even the charge rifle cannot compare to how much damage you're getting per bullet and how much bullet, you know, really you're using. And so you can carry very little ammo and still be very effective here. And it's a very nice weapon to kind of switch in between. So if you're fans of snipers, I know the triple take has kind of not always been the go-to thing, but in the playoffs for North America, at least, the triple take was used probably more than any other sniper in that moment. So I really think that if you want to have your triple take moment, now is the time. All right. That is enough. Also, the triple take, by the way, it got an increase in the ability to fire. So it used to fire less fast in between shots. So now it is firing faster as well, which is one of the big reasons why it became that much better. It used to be a little bit more delayed in between shots. I believe they bumped that up by 0.15. Went from 1.25 to 1.4, I believe, in between, just in terms of a little bit of speed, increasing some speed there. So now let's go to the EVA 8. The EVA 8, really the shotgun that, in my opinion, won a lot of the tournaments in late games. It's probably one of the best late game shotguns because a Mastiff, you really have to know what's happening and you have to line your shots up. If you miss, the whiff really can be deadly. But the EVA 8 just has so much wiggle room. Someone shows up here, I can get a lot of damage off. I can still apply pressure. Up close, I'm hitting 99s, I'm hitting hundreds. But if I'm here from a distance as well, listen, I'm doing decent 42. You know, this is decent. You can win a mid-range fight or at least finish somebody off who might be running away. There's not much to say about this one because there are other shotguns that, again, I think still are overly valued. But the EVA 8 having the ability to, when you get it outfitted, shoot even faster than that. It's a shotgun that, in my opinion, gets heavily overlooked as being the best shotgun in the game. And I think it's just because people aren't always familiar with how to use the double tap, but trust me, if you practice this and you go into late game scenarios, if you're better, if you're really good at the EVA 8, there's not a lot of people who can beat you. Let's just put it that way. There won't be a lot of people that can beat you. So if you want to master this bad boy, I think it is worthwhile. But again, you look at things like the Mastiff, and it's hard to get mad unless you hit these shots. Now, for me, I'm not the best Mastiff player. I honestly do not play Mastiffs that well. The EVA 8 is probably where I would land. But there's no denying the fact that if you are up close with a Mastiff, you are wrecking somebody. And I think that's the beauty. You can get a lot of value. 78 from this mid-range is more than I was getting with the EVA 8. But you also sometimes hit your 7s. You also sometimes hit your 8s, and you have a little bit more time in between your shots. The one thing that makes the Mastiff, I think, really great is just the 6 shots. If this was a 4-shot weapon, I think the EVA 8 would be the best shotgun in the game. The Mastiff just still, despite having so much power and really, I think the ability when someone is downed to go behind them quickly and underneath their shield, just 104, basically 100% knock them. There's no other shotty except the PK that can do that in the game. And I think that's just such an efficient thing. Boom, hit them, they're down, grab the box, armor swap, now you're back in the fight. That's what I love about the Mastiff. And so a lot of players realize that if I do the right thing, this is a kill. And so they just try to do the right thing. It's up to you. A little bit less wiggle room on that, but obviously, you know it gets the job done. All right, moving on, guys. We are at the top 10. So I wonder if your guesses have been correct. I think a lot of you are going to get fooled by what my top 10 is. First off, let's go into a weapon I've ranked at probably the first position almost every season, the Wingman. This season, the Wingman falls into the top 10 and at the number 10 position. Why is that, Raynday? Well, a couple of reasons as to why I put the Wingman there. One, the Wingman has not changed significantly. This is a weapon that is never going to be bad. And I think very much so, the value is in the holder of the weapon, not the eye of the beholder. I think we all know this weapon's very, very good. It's got incredibly efficient damage. If you're headshotting people all over the place, it could be the best weapon in the game. But I think from a standard perspective, and I think from you as a player who's watching this video, the Wingman is probably in the 10th position. Now, a specialist will always be able to make it happen. You look at any form of specialty, they can, whether it's playing basketball and being a 3-point specialist, whether it's playing chess and being a specialist in that specific game, whether it's being a specialist at a certain weapon in a game, like an op in CS, specialists know how to make a weapon shine. For the most people, though, I think the Wingman is just a pretty consistent weapon, but it's not as guaranteed, and I don't think we're technically in that meta currently to where this is what every player is using. I've seen, especially professionally, this weapon be somebody's almost comfort weapon versus what maybe is winning all of the engagements towards the late game. And that is where I think we've seen a slight shift in Season 6. The Wingman has become a little bit less a must and more of just an option. And that is why I have dropped it to number 10, because I felt that there's been a lot of weapons I've seen really stealing the show. And one of those weapons is the R-301. Now, R-301 comes in at number 9. Again, this has been one of the best weapons throughout all of Apex Legends history. But what's made it special is the absence of a certain weapon. Ooh, all my skins are so good, by the way. The absence of a certain weapon, the R99. Now, the R99 is still available and it's still valuable, but the R301 has really become the go-to light ammo weapon. And there's nothing to really compare it to. The alternator doesn't come close to hitting the way that this does from range. The alternator can't compare with the 28 headshot damage. Remember, the alternator only doing 23. And the fact that this weapon has the ability to not only from range apply great pressure, not only from up close apply good pressure, but truly even from a hip fire perspective, stay involved and really compete against almost any other weapon you put it to. I think just this brings such a level of consistency, burst, and it's just really hard to undervalue what this weapon is bringing to the table. And I was surprised personally how much I saw it used in the playoffs, but this is really one of the go-to weapons that you would find, especially as an AR. I think it outperforms almost every other AR, and that's why I put it at number 9. Now, moving into number 8, another weapon that got a burst buff, going from 0.32 to 0.28 in between burst, is the Hemlock. Now, the Hemlock also, I believe, got some lessened recoil. So usually the Hemlock will basically recoil like that, and the last 2 shots will be a little bit farther. They've reduced that recoil for those final 2 shots. And when I say the burst is increased, That's the same speed. But the speed between going from that to that, the second burst or the next burst has been increased. And so when you're unloading your entire magazine, that will happen faster. So essentially it is a damage increase. The single fire has always been solid. It's so efficient from range. It's so deadly as well. It's very bullet efficient sometimes when you're able to, find these shots onto targets. You just, 4 bullets and you can almost take down their entire health. And the burst is still one of the most underrated and best things. And we have seen pros now shift into a Hemlock meta, really honoring this weapon and saying, yeah, no, this weapon is legit. I'm carrying this around like it's my baby. Like this is what I'm doing all my fights with, and for good reason. It is one of the sickest weapons. The barrel for the Hemlock is one of those things where you don't honestly always need it. Sometimes the kick leads you to headshots, right? And so some people do not prefer a strong barrel on it. Because that kick going into a headshot actually sometimes is valuable on those second and third shots. But they've lessened that, so I think, you don't really need that anymore. 3-time scope is actually really good for this too. And I find that the only thing that people are really hesitant about with this is that do they want more of a kind of, I believe, just more SMG style of play. And that's where we get into the next weapon, the Prowler, the weapon that I think now with the R99 gone, used to compete with the R99, and now I think has just become the weapon that people use when you're running a strong SMG. It's this or another one that I'm going to mention in just a second. This is really one of my favorite weapons, and part of the reason I think it's so good is because of the magazine size. 35 bullets in this magazine is bigger than the R99 ever was. It is bigger than the Volt ever is. It is bigger than almost the Devotion or the Havoc, and those are huge magazine sizes. And I just believe that partly this is one of those weapons that has, yes, alternator level damage, but fires so fast. And I think winning duels against a Prowler is one of the hardest things to do. This is a weapon that if you see it, and you definitely see that select fire, you should pick it up. But even without the select fire, the burst has gotten an increase, and people are really valuing the burst. I don't want to sleep on this or tell you that it's not good, because it is. A Prowler burst is a 5-shot burst instead of the 3. And it's one of the most deadly ways to engage and one of the most unexpected kind of fight styles, because you don't expect that. You expect more of a slow and steady shot for most people when they're playing against a Prowler, so you can catch somebody off guard really, really well with this weapon. Excuse me. Overall, I do believe the Prowler is probably the second best SMG in the game, and as far as, stuff that you can find on the ground. And so I think it's obviously easy to come in that number 7 position. But let's go to the best SMG in the game, in my opinion. It is going to be the Volt. Now, the Volt was the new weapon introduced, and one of the cool things about the Volt, it just started off being really good, and no one has really complained about it. It's one of the best weapon introductions I've seen in Apex Legends. And one of the things I like about it is, although it's a little bit less than the Prowler, it's got really strong and easy recoil to control. You can see it's got a little bit of a higher of a headshot bonus. It's got an incredible level of burst. It fires extremely quickly. And the only thing that really sets it aside, despite being, I think, really a little bit more like energy efficient, get it, you got the energy ammo. But I think being a little bit more efficient, I think the recoil being even easier to control, and the headshot being a little bit better. I just feel like the Volt has been a weapon that truly is just the weapon of choice this season for a lot of people. Against a Prowler, it actually has a lot of times that it loses, but I just prefer it, and I think it's more of just a preference on the style of how I play these weapons, and the level of kind of immediate burst that it does. Even though over the length of a time, I think Prowler will probably catch up. That's just the way that I feel. I just, though, wanted to put the Volt up, and I really just want to commend Respawn for putting out a weapon that was so effective early on, and really not being overly OP. Now, the next weapon, a little interesting, the Havoc. Now, a lot of people have kind of slept on the Havoc this season. It was the best weapon for several seasons in a row. It got changes, it got nerfs, it got adjustments to recoil patterns, and at Season 6, they said, you know what? I'm just going to screw the recoil pattern. They changed it completely. The Havoc used to have this really weird, like, horizontal kick where you would essentially go like this. And then, that's a little aggressive, but you go like that and then go whatever. Now, it just goes kind of like very small kick. They said they completely redid the recoil pattern. And let's talk about the benefits and why this weapon ranks above the Volt. As you can see, above the Prowler, 36 instead of the 35 magazine size. It also has a very fast fire rate. But one of the biggest things that makes this the best, and let's not even consider a turbocharger yet, is the damage per bullet. 18 and a double damage headshot, which is why this weapon has just been so dominant. You can get a little lucky from range, hit a few headshots, and someone's dead. Like, I missed a lot of shots there, and I still killed them. I didn't even have a turbocharger on. So you could see how deadly this weapon is, even though the recoil changed, even though a lot of people are playing the Volt, even though the Prowler is kind of the king of SMGs. This weapon is still the Mamba. Like, this thing hits, hurts, and until, I mean, we take away that 36 double headshot bonus, it's always going to be like that because it just affords you too much damage even when you miss to lose a lot of duels. As long as you hit a few headshots in your duel, like, there's almost no way you can lose that fight. From a hipfire perspective as well, it's very effective. And with the extended mag, I mean, once you kit it out, this thing is bad. This is a bad mamma jamma. So it comes in at number 5. And the only other weapon to finish off the carry on the ground weapons, it's got to be the Devotion. Now, the Devotion is a similar effect to the Havoc, which is why it ranks there. It's got 16, and it was reduced from 17. So this used to be a 34 headshot. It is now 32, and this bad boy hits for 16. So hitting less than the Havoc. But one of the things you'll notice, 36, now 48. Oh, my God. It's got like 25% more ammo in it. It is a beast. And one of the biggest things is when you find the turbocharger on it, it's nearly impossible to win a gunfight. Not only because, well, unless I miss like that, but not only because of the headshots, but just at the speed. It fires faster than Havoc. I believe at its max speed, it's firing faster than any other weapon in the game has ever fired in Apex Legends. And the turbocharger, all it does is just get it to that speed faster. It's got a little bit of a wind up, and the turbocharger just gets it there. As far as damage, you're talking the 648. As far as like the 768, excuse me, as far as the magazine in total. Things like the Havoc and the Volt, they're running in the 400s. So not only do you have more damage in every magazine, you have faster fire when you are in those duels, and from a hipfire perspective or anything like that, there's just no way you can lose. So the Devotion, it wins, and it is the best weapon, even after the nerfs. But I will say that the nerfs, I think, have made it an appropriate level weapon. All right, guys, moving into really the big discussion here, because the R99 and the Devotion switched. These 3 weapons are the best in the game. Let's not deny it. I think this is true. These are the best weapons in the game. But what order are they the best? The Kraber, no, I'm just kidding. The PK. This is my number 3 best weapon in the game. So it will be between the R99 and the Kraber as to who wins. The PK is, once it's become a care package weapon, I think everyone realized it made sense. Putting the PK back into the ground is exactly the reaction people would have with the Devotion coming back. Like, hey, we realize this weapon's awesome. It's obviously better than the other shotguns. It's obviously more versatile. It's got the choke. You have the ability to have that digi threat when the choke happens. So you can play around a lot of different scenarios, like the Caustic, like the Bangalore smokes, if that does show up. Caustic a lot more appropriate as far as looking at, a high level of competitive play. But in your games, Bangalore could definitely be something that's allowing this to shine even more. But it's just got a lot of wiggle room. It's really hard to lose any duels. That big square targeter, that Peacekeeper standard in terms of the shotgun shells, it just makes it very easy to go ahead and let you get a little no-reg there, be able to finish off your opponents. And that is why it is the number 3 best weapon, number 3 best weapon in the game. Number 2, though, it is the R99. Now, the R99 is actually such a good weapon, and in the care package, I love it because it used to really, I believe, have a max 26, and it used to fire a little slower. The R99 now fires faster, and now it has an extended magazine of 32, from what I said, I believe was a max of 26 before. It just made a good weapon already that good, and it changed the meta because now that this weapon isn't on the ground, you see the Volt, you see the Hemlock, you see the R-301, you see the Havoc, the Devotion. These are the weapons that people are running, the Prowler, and it's just changed the meta completely. Yet, if you do find an R99 in the package, they have made it valuable enough so you would drop any other weapon that you had in that category to be able to use it. So as the number 2 weapon, if you see it, pick it up. And finally, last but not least, the weapon that will always be the best weapon in Apex Legends, it's ya boy, the Kraber. The Kraber, it's really just a one-shot on everybody, and they've changed that. The reason it's doing 435 is because that is the maximum amount of damage you'd have to do to somebody who had 15% damage reduction, a full Evo shield, full level 4, level 3 helmet, and essentially headshotting them. So no matter what you do, no matter what Gibraltar has, how much Evo armor he has, how much fortify percentage he's got, you are going to kill anybody with a headshot, and that's what makes this just so dangerous. A one-shot kill that's dependent on the shooter and not the player that's being shot at, that's always going to be the best weapon in the game. And even if you do find a body shot as well, you've essentially taken somebody out of a fight, whereas you can't say that about any other weapon. 150 damage right there. Just because I do this to somebody, they may not be out of the fight. You know what I mean? Even if I do that, they may not be out of the fight. But once I do 150, they're done, and they're not going to be able to engage in that fight unless they want to die very, very quickly. So the Kraber, it's essentially the best weapon in the game, and this is the ultimate ranking of every weapon so far in Season 6. I hope you guys enjoy this one. I try to make it a little informational, and describing stocks and bolts and stabilizers and everything, which do reduce your recoil. I don't think I mentioned this, and decrease your randomness by 20% at the legendary level, 15% at the rare, and also 30% reduction of muzzle flash if you do find that legendary barrel stabilizer. But if you did find enjoyable, please leave a like. If you had some feedback, please let me know in the comment section below. If you want to talk about weapon meta and you agreed or didn't, also hit me up in the comments. I'll be here checking in, chatting with you guys, and hopefully you subscribe and stay tuned to more of what we're doing here on the channel and become a part of the Rainstorm. As always, my friends, never give up, never stop gaming. I'll see you all next time.